Good.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome everyone to the April 9th Eastchester Board of Education meeting. It's nice to see so many people here again this evening. Before we get started, I need to make a motion. Unfortunately, our district clerk is under the weather tonight, so I need to make a motion to appoint Louise Lynch, our business official, as our district clerk pro tem. Do I have a motion? Rob, second? Christine, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then before we jump in, Lucy, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us, so I'm going to turn it over to you for the high school representative report.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone in the Eastchester community. Last week was our Spirit Week that culminated in the Spring Pep Rally. There were lots of students there who came to participate in grade level competitions, and the sports teams performed some fun dances as well. Congrats to the girls' flag football team who came in first place, and thanks again to EGO for coordinating the event. The FBLA State Leadership Conference is taking place from today to the 13th. Students in the Future Business Leaders of America will represent Eastchester at this competition in Rochester, displaying their knowledge in business, finance, and marketing. The Players Club is back again with their musical, The Addams Family. This spring musical will be showcased on April 19th, 20th, and 21st, and tickets are on sale now. I personally have been able to see them rehearse, and it's going to be really amazing. The junior class will be holding their annual Stay Awake-a-thon on April 26th. Class of 2025, please don't forget to be there. It's Poetry Month, and Poetry Club will be having their open mic this Friday at 3:15 in the library classroom. The Human Rights Club and Forum Literary Magazine are hosting a diaper drive this week. Please consider helping local families by donating diapers in original packaging sizes 4, 5, and 6, and pull-ups in 2T, 3T, and 4T with wipes. The Going Green and Building for Tomorrow clubs are cooperating to show their support at the Relay for Life event, happening on Saturday, May 11th. This will support the American Cancer Society in this yearly spectacular event, commemorating those affected by cancer. Coming up soon is the high school art show from April 19th to 21st. These students have been working hard all year, and it's a great event to truly see some remarkable art. Please join our talented music department for their spring concerts at the beginning of next month. The band and orchestra perform on May 1st, and the choir performs on May 2nd. They have been working since the beginning of the year to prepare these pieces, so it will sure be an amazing night. Thank you to everyone who came to support the lacrosse teams on Saturday at Light Up the Night for Autism. This is always a great event, so thank you to everyone who helped. And congratulations to the varsity golf team on their win yesterday over Ardsley. The team was led by junior Kevin Wang, who shot a 33, sophomore Quinlan Hood, who shot a 38, and senior Joe Portante, who shot a 44. Wow. Great job, boys. Wow. And good night, and thanks for supporting all of us Eagles. Mm-hmm.
Lucy, thank you so much. You always do such a wonderful job, and we greatly appreciate it. And as you're talking tonight, there's one thing that I did want to share with you, and I don't know if you realize this, but there are a lot of families at home that watch this live stream, and a lot of them have young daughters, myself included, and my daughter watches all the time. And they look at you in amazement at how eloquent you are and well-spoken and how much information that you provide. So you're doing an amazing job, and you're actually touching people that are probably not even here in this room. So thank you for coming every meeting and giving the update. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I do have a couple of updates for the community this evening, and I want to make sure that I get this right. We received a letter earlier this week from Miss Lori and Mr. Boysenalt. And we want to congratulate the middle school science Olympiad team for a job extremely well done. And I want to read this because I want to make sure that I get it right. We're thrilled to share that our team achieved remarkable success at the state competition, bringing home 2 top 10 individual event medals and 5 additional top 20 individual event finishes. Furthermore, we're proud to announce that Eastchester Middle School is now ranked 29th in the state out of 647 teams, a testament to the hard work, dedication, and talent of our students. Big round of congratulations for that team, and a special thank you to Ms. LeBou, Ms. Laurie, and Mr. Boysenall for all of their hard work. No easy feat whatsoever. Additionally, the other update that I had this evening is something that I think everyone is highly in tune with, everyone in this community that pays taxes, and we're going into a budget conversation tonight, is the advocacy work that we've been doing at the state level to get back really our fair share from the governor. There was an extension that was put in place on the approval, and Louise, please correct me if I'm wrong. That extension took place until April 8th. We do not have any further information at this point in time, but it does seem like the governor is leaning towards keeping SAVE harmless, which does help us out slightly if, and I say if very deliberately, that happens. There are still other components of that deficit that have not been discussed, so please continue to call the governor's office. It is not too late. It is very important that not only myself and my fellow trustees continue to advocate for Eastchester, but every parent and every constituent should continue to do the same. So I did want to provide that update. Are there any, and I know it's been somewhat busy with vacations and people going away, any individual reports, PTAs, committee level reports? I didn't think so. Okay, thank you. Dr. Valenti, at this point, I am going to turn it over to you for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let me get right to it. And we always start with students. The fact that we're talking about the budget makes no difference. We still start with students because the budget is all about students. And speaking of the middle school that Mr. Finelli referenced earlier, they'll be joining us at our next regular meeting, by the way. We have Stephanie Collins here this evening. Hi, Stephanie. Would you like to come up to the microphone? Because you're a 7th grader at the middle school, and you won the 2024 Lifting Up Westchester Student Essay Contest. So let's give Stephanie a big round of applause. Tell us a little bit about it, Stephanie. Okay, what was the contest about? What did you write about?
So the contest.
Here, use the mic. Go ahead.
So the contest was about you had to write an essay about like homelessness, and I wrote about a person that was like homeless. She was like she was happy and like she had a good job that she liked to do, but then that business like shut down, and she had a hard time with like living, and she lost her house, but then she found a shelter from Lifting Up Westchester, and then it like helped her get her life back together.
And tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the essay contest. Do you enjoy writing?
Yeah.
Why do you enjoy writing? Tell the folks. What's interesting about writing to you?
I like telling a story, and I like reading too in general, so it's like kind of fun to do.
Are you going to be a competitor next year?
I'm not sure.
Would you like to?
I don't know.
I'd say your track record.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's give her another round of applause. Robert, Could we take a picture with Stephanie here that she's being awarded?
Yeah, if you could just step in
Okay,
front of
right
this
here?
camera.
Yeah, let's, okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it? You got it, Mom? Okay, welcome to Mom as well. And-
Congratulations, Mom and Dad.
Mr. and Mrs. Collins, yes. Okay. Our Players Club are putting on the Addams Family, April 19th, 20th, and 21st. And I think we have a surprise in store. So I'm going to step back and let the Players Club take over.
Hello, I'm William Anderson. I am playing Gomez Adams in our production of The Addams Family next week, and I will be singing a song called Not Today, and it is at the point in our show where Gomez and Morticia's relationship is going downhill, and he has to try and win her back by taking her to the worst hotel in Paris for vacation. Did I ever think that I would feel this way? Did I ever once expect the worst? Did I ever dream that I could feel this way? Dios mío, no, this is the first. I'm a Latin man, and Latin men are smart. Everything we do is muy sincere, leading with a sword as much as with a heart. Never once was I prepared to hear. Not today, she spat in my face. Not today, not even second base. Not today, the words I heard her say. Not today, not today, not today. I remember well the day she poisoned me. No one else had cared enough to try. How did she uncover all the joys in me? Oh, the way she promised I would die. Every year that passes, I adore her more. Anyone who knows us would agree. She's my every fever, flu, and canker sore. She's my only hepatitis B. Not today, I'm dancing on my own. Not today, a dog without a bone. Not today, that rotten wrong to lay. Not today, not today, not today. Is that my go to Paris? It's about time. Allo, hotan nasvratu. The future of my marriage is at stake. Can you confirm this is the worst hotel in Paris? Because I need to get your ghoulish guarantee. What would I pay if you could say you'd serve my petit déjeuner from an abandoned and condemned patisserie? I must be clear, don't want to circulate misnomers. You must have roaches in the bath at any cost. It says right here in my new guide I bought from Frommer's that even in July the pipes are thick with frost. Morticia's leaving? She's at the gate with the valet? It's the end of the family. Is this the moment when I turn a little gray? Is this the moment when my marriage vows decay? Is this the moment when Morticia runs away? No, not today. Not today. Not today.
Fantastic. Please introduce yourself,
Hi.
your pianist and your colleague.
I'm William Anderson, and I'm the president of the Chester Players Club.
Hi, I'm Gianna Casino, and I'm the vice president of the Players Club, and I'm also the social media manager, which is why I'm filming.
We just want to thank the board for everything you've done for us. Thank you so much. We also want to remind you guys that tickets are on sale for our show for April 19, 2021. April 19th and 20th are 7 p.m. The 21st is 2 p.m. eastchester.booktix.com. Thank you so much.
And how about,
Me too.
yeah, you're a pianist.
Oh, Todd.
This
Todd
is
Beanie.
Todd Beanie,
Amazing.
the most amazing piano
Talented.
player ever. Incredible. Can we have a hand for Todd?
Come on up here, we'll have a Kodak moment. Come on. You guys, yeah, come on. All right. Can you get us all here?
Yeah, if you could just step in front of the podium.
Right here, okay? Beautiful. All right. You good?
Yes.
Okay. Big smile.
Perfect, got it.
Okay. Thank you. Another round of applause. Okay. That's an intro to state aid. How about that?
Good intro.
I think Matt summarized pretty effectively where we're at as of today. The word is that we will be getting Save Harmless. The governor has relented wisely and said that there'll be a committee set up to study the formula for next year. They're still haggling on what the inflation formula will be, somewhere between 2.7%, 3.7%, but that translates, that 1 percentage point translates into hundreds of millions of dollars statewide. So we remain optimistic. I do want to say that even though our assumption is that we'll be getting most of the state aid that we've been promised, we do have other revenue sources. Let's assume we got nothing, none of the 400,000. We still believe from a revenue perspective we'll be able to cover it. That will not be the reality, thank goodness, but that was an operating assumption in building the budget. So let's quickly go through the budget. This is the last formal presentation of the budget. The board will be adopting the budget tonight, and as you know, the timeline from here moves pretty quickly, going toward May, when there'll be a public hearing, and then later on in the month of May, of course, the budget vote. So talking about state aid, as I said, we held the number at 16 million and change because our assumption is that we would get back most, if not all. If not, there are other elements of that revenue trend where we will meet the needs of the district in order to get to $105,692,491. It's no secret that the feds are going to hold a 5% rate for a little while longer than most people anticipated, and we did not anticipate that fully in next year's budget. So that is one area where we expect more money than we specifically estimated. There are other areas as well. So that is the revenue picture, and we believe it's a solid one, approximately 3.1 million increase. So when you look at the revenues, pretty much this is where you want to be as a school district. Eastchester is not a wealthy district. We're not a poor district. We're right dab in the middle. So our state aid is about 15%. There are districts that get single-digit state aid. I'll mention one, Rye City. They are much wealthier, okay, by virtue of corporations that they have there, et cetera. So their state aid is in the low single digits. There are districts like Mahopac up north that gets 27% in state aid because they don't have the necessary property wealth. So there are two factors in terms of wealth. Your combined wealth ratio. Eastchester is just about at the midpoint. We're at 1.4. The average throughout the state is 1.0, but a number of neighboring districts are at 2 and 3 and higher. So we're not a wealthy district, we're not a poor district, we're right at the midpoint. That's the point I'm trying to make. The other factor is what I just referenced, your state aid. And at the 15% level, that statewide considered a fairly wealthy district. For our neighborhood, there are districts that are getting single digits there. Your local levy, which is your property tax, that really carries the burden, and we thank our taxpayers. We're sensitive to our taxpayers, and we think this budget shows respect for our taxpayers. The other sources of revenue, miscellaneous revenue, ranging from interest income, insurance recoveries, tuition aid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That will account for about 8%. So let's look on the expense side, and of course, everyone here knows that the $105 million on the revenue side has to equal the $105,692,491 on the expenditure side. So we do have a balanced budget. Our program costs are where they ought to be. If you recall, a year ago, our administrative costs were a little bit higher, and I stated that publicly. They were teetering at the 11% level. And it's my opinion, based on the research, that administrative costs should always be no greater than 10%, ideally slightly less than. So we've achieved that goal here. And it's a good place to be in the 9.5% range. Your program really is what you're providing students. So 75 cents, so to speak, on every dollar is going to teaching, instruction, support services, curriculum for students. Your capital expenditures are really your operation and maintenance. You want to maintain your buildings, not only from an aesthetic point of view, from a security point of view, safety point of view, in terms of infrastructure, et cetera. Energy costs, all of that is built into capital. And then in addition to that would be all of your transportation and busing. So I think we're pretty much right on target as to where we want to be in terms of distribution of the budget. So let's look at a line item budget. Now, when I say line item, there are different types of line items, okay? You can get 45 pages of a line item budget, or you can get a briefer version that I'm going through tonight. We would like, once the board adopts the budget tonight, to put up the full line item budget. We're very proud of it. And both Louise and myself, and I'm sure Dr. Stowell would be happy to meet with any taxpayer or resident who say, gee, I want something more detailed. I'd like to look at more detail, and we'll set up an appointment. Please do come in, and we'd be happy to do that. But in general, the general support of the budget, which I noted earlier, is your Board of Ed, your district clerk, your district meeting, and $200,000 is allocated there. Your superintendent or chief school administrator, that office, secretarial support staff, conferences, workshops, et cetera. And that's true for finance. I'm not going to go through every number, but finance being, of course, Louise and her team. Staff refers a good deal of your personnel, the personnel team, and monies that are allocated for other workshops, conferences, professional development, other expenditures, software and hardware, frontline, OLAS, which we use, et cetera. That's about close to $1,900,000. Operations, maintenance, and security, that's the first big figure in that area. About 1.7 of that is security, our SROs, our security aides, and so forth, through our outside contractor. And that's money we believe that's well spent. We want to continue to spend that on security. Then we do dedicate a good deal of money for our maintenance, our operations, in order to have not capital projects, but what does a district need to maintain its infrastructure, its roofing, et cetera, custodial, cleaning, regular basis. So that is a big chunk of money because all your custodial staff is there as well. Central printing, mailing, and data processing, I think, speaks for itself. We've cut back substantially on mailings to the community. A lot of it is done now electronically, except certain areas that we will be getting out a budget newsletter. And by law, we do have to have a property tax report card. So those are certain expenditures. And then, of course, within our own schools, teachers still need printing of lesson plans, materials, support resources that they need within the school. So that covers that expenditure K to 12. And then in that 1.26 million range are your insurance, assessment costs, BOCES administrative, that's a set fee set by Southern Westchester BOCES, any capital fees, tax certiorari, and water tax, etc., a sundry of expenses that by law we're obligated to pay. So part one, as I say, is a three-part budget. Part one, general support, is 12.4 million approximately. The next big chunk of the budget is your instructional services and expenditures. And this includes your curriculum, supervision, and staff development. Supervision meaning all of your building principals, assistant principals, assistant directors, etc., assistant superintendents, and so forth. Well, at least PPS. Louise is under the finance code. All of your teaching, that's the big chunk, 29 million. That's all teaching staff, certificated teaching, as well as teaching assistants who are members of the same group. And then, of course, special education being a separate group of certificated individuals, and that budget is separate and apart from your regular. Occupational education generally refers to students we are sending to Southern Westchester BOCES, AM and PM. We do have some money for our summer school, approximately 100 to 150,000 in that neighborhood. And then, of course, the library we're in here, media, technology, throughout the district is approximately 3.7 million. And then your student services, pupil personnel services, guidance, counseling, other types of services, occupational therapy, speech, and so forth. And then you have student activities, which covers a broad range of your extracurriculars, your athletics, etc. So that is $58 million spent fundamentally for program, staff, and support for our students. So if you're looking at the pieces, when you put them together, we looked at the general support in detail, 12 million and change. We looked at the total instructional, 58 million and change. Now, transportation, the 5,000 code, is approximately $5,000, interestingly, and for us in Eastchester. And that is all the busing that occurs taking children to and from schools, extracurricular, athletics, etc. So that's about $5 million. We'll be talking more about that cost at future board meetings. Your employee benefits are all the benefits paid to staff, and we've had some substantial increases there that I've pointed out earlier in the budget process, where our health insurance expenses have certainly exceeded the inflationary rates, well beyond them. Our ERS costs, that is for your CSEA group, custodial groups, et cetera, was up a whopping, I think, 28%. Was that it? About $240,000. So when the governor says 2%, that's why it sort of it becomes laughable that we're getting hit with 11% here and 28% there, and here are 15 and there are whatever. But that's it. And we have to meet those obligations. Debt service, of course, is something that we welcome because we want to improve our schools, the capital bond referendum. So that covers a broad range of our leases, transfer to capital fund, and other related costs there. And then we do have the summer school that I mentioned earlier of $200,000. So total budget is $105,692,481. So let's look at the budget in a larger context, all right? We're looking at a proposed tax levy that stays within the cap of 2.96%. January's inflationary index was at 3.94%. We're sending out a property tax card, if I'm not mistaken, that's showing 4.01%.
Yes.
Right? So both of those numbers are much higher than what we're asking the taxpayer to chip in. I think that's important. They're a full percentage point higher. So our tax levy is 1% below inflation, despite the fact that we've sustained larger increases and that we want to bring in innovative programs. When we look at Eastchester on the tax levy spectrum compared to 46 Westchester school districts, that 2.96% is slightly below by 0.1% the average district increase throughout the neighborhood. So again, don't forget, a lot of what we do is around the median. We're slightly below the median, okay? So our levy increase remains below the average. The mean is not the median. We all know that. So if you want to say the mean, in this case, the mean and the median are fairly close to each other amongst the 46 districts. And not all of them have fully reported in. And there have been some very high tax levy increases reported. Ours is, I say again, within the cap, and all we need is a simple majority. So the essential question, after all those numbers, people say, oh, thank you very much, but what is it going to cost me? How much more do I have to pay for this budget for next year than I'm paying for the current budget? Now, if we use the assessment of 8,500 and we want to compare apples and apples, which is what we should do, the tax rate is going from what it is this year, $1,580 for each unit of $1,000 of assessables, to $1,626. So you can see the delta there between 580 and 626 per thousand. When you multiply that out against the 8,500 for the average taxpayer, the bill increases from $13,430 to $13,830, okay? And that's approximately $398. What are we off by $2 there? But $398 is the increase we're estimating, and that is that 2.96%. Now, what are we buying for this? What are we purchasing? What are we investing in? Now, this is the very short version. I had a much longer version at a prior meeting. I will spare you that at this meeting. But I think it's important to review what we would like to do next year. There's an enrollment increase at Waverly, and we want to address that. We believe we're going to have 20 students more because the kindergarten, now becoming grade 1, was larger than the current first grade. So we have to address that increase. That means an additional teacher. We've talked about our FLES program, a very successful FLES program at the Waverly School, and very strong support amongst the faculty and the community. And we believe that we can extend that grades 2 to 5 by allocating one additional teacher to Ann Hutch and one to Greenvale. The writing revolution, and I think this is important, this is a K-12 effort when you look down the list, when you get to secondary. K-12 effort to bring a highly organized, systematic writing program throughout the entire school district. And it's really the science of writing at work. We can talk more about that. But we want to bring that program from kindergarten, and the Waverly PTA has supported some elements of that this year at K1, and we'd like to pick it up through our general fund, K5, for next year. We have one literacy coach. If we're able to find a second literacy coach who is satisfactory, we think there ought to be one in Greenvale, one in Ann Hutch, and then we do have one at Waverly. So one in each school, focusing on the science of reading and writing. We have a very good music program growing at the elementary school, and they just need more staff if we want to give it the energy and the life that it needs to maximize student participation. And at a future meeting, I'd like to show you the increase this year in the number of student participants. And I think something we're doing is creating a wonderful pathway to the middle and high school program. We have to enrich the arts in general at the elementary level and engage our students earlier in the band, orchestra, choral arrangements. And there are a couple of ways to do that. One is an additional teacher, as you can see at Ann Hutch and Greenvale. We also would like to introduce orchestra advisors and art show advisors. So we do have advisors for some of the other areas of the humanities and the arts. We don't have it for orchestra. We don't have it for art show, and would like to spread that across the board. So our elementary children, yes, will benefit. Now, those are not expensive items. They're stipends ranging $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, but they're important in terms of providing youngsters throughout the year opportunities beyond the scope of the normal school day. I'm going to talk a little bit more about technology improvements, so let's hold on that, but we have a road to travel there. Let's talk secondary before we go to technology. Now, what are we adding at the secondary level? We are adding one additional guidance counselor, so that's a net increase of one from 6 to 7. That's a very important statement. Our tri-states evaluation, our own internal evaluation has indicated that we can only benefit from another guidance counselor. Our special needs pupils can benefit. Our areas of transitional work that we want to do, and so we're fully committed to one additional guidance counselor. We also have a very successful algebra Regents program. As you know, we implemented that this past September. We went from 40-some-odd% of our students participating to 70% or better. Now, that's a big number. That means of your 8th grade class, if you have 200 youngsters, you went from 40% of that 80 to you're doubling that to 100 or slightly more. Our whole goal is to engage more students in more challenging courses. So we want to expand now beyond algebra, and we'd like to move into the world of earth science. That is another major area of science, and it helps our students, all students, not just, this is not an honors group, this is something we'd like to see all students eventually benefit from, get a jump on a secondary curriculum and begin their work toward high school credits at the earlier levels of middle school, 8th grade. This, again, is going to propel more students getting involved in geometry using the same model, So it has that dynamic effect, domino effect, the good domino effect of engaging more youngsters in more Regents courses at the math and science levels. Those are areas we really need to attend to right up through 12th grade, and it should be an ongoing goal for the East Chester School District. Now, under technology, I will talk about that in a minute and talk about the plan. I mentioned the writing revolution earlier that we're doing elementary. We've already completed the first year at the secondary level at the middle school. We'll have year 2 so that all teachers are trained. This is a training program so that all teachers learn how to integrate fundamentals of writing into their course and program, whether it's social studies or science, whether it's math or ELA. The writing revolution is a very prescriptive way to get all students writing more across all content areas. In the field of sports, we'd like to strengthen our modified junior varsity sports and a lot of other areas too in the boys-girls basketball neighborhood. So we'd like to spend some additional money on coaches and support there. Now, I'm treating technology separately because it is a separate and much more expensive story. The short story is that our total network infrastructure, the stuff behind the door, the closets, a lot of the things that we don't see, that needs $1.7 million if we're going to bring it into the 21st century. Now, for whatever reason, it was not included in the bond referendum. This is the kind of stuff that begs for a bond referendum. But here we are today, and it wasn't there. But we're at a critical point where if we don't do something quickly and correctly, we may not have the infrastructure we need for full internet access. On top of that is classroom technology, which again was not a major investment made in prior years. We're trying to take big gulps of technology in a short period of time. So if you add the top 2 lines, you're about 2.2 million. Sorry, 3.2. This year alone, we've subtracted about 1 million of that. So we still have a road to travel, okay? And that road gives us the remaining cost of approximately $2,300,000. So how are we going to address that? And I want to thank Robert Jacoby. He's here tonight. If there are any questions that the board has, he certainly can field them along with the team here. But when you look at each of the schools, and I put this up here purposely because what you're going to see is that our secondary costs are greater here than our elementary costs, and that's understandable. We have more space, more classrooms, more building, so those costs are greater. On the program front, you may find more in terms of elementary expenditure than secondary. When you add them all together, this budget addresses approximately 50% grades 6 to 12, approximately 50% grades K to 5. Not that it necessarily needs to work out that way, but I would not want anyone to draw the conclusion that we're favoring any organizational level over another. So you can see the costs at Waverly, what we need to do, both from the infrastructure point of view and the classroom technology point of view. I don't have to read every number, but as you can see, the numbers get bigger as we move to the middle school, and they really, and should, nearly double when you get to the high school, okay? And then district office should be the smallest of them all, but you do need infrastructure work there as well. So when you add up all of those costs, it calls for a multi-year plan. I'm using 3 years because working with Robert and Louise, we think that we have a remedy that gives us the best of all worlds. We want to see classroom technology right away in all the classrooms, in all the schools. And the only way to do that is a lease purchase agreement. You get your equipment up front and you pay it over a multi-year basis. If you went the other route, then Waverly has to wait for enough money to come through in the third year or the fourth year, and that's not fair to students. So the lease purchase agreement does level the playing field. All students, all teachers, all classrooms get the classroom technology that we described to you in prior board meetings. And if there are questions tonight, we'll entertain them. Network infrastructure will do incrementally over the next few years. And as you can see, that's how it's broken out. So next year we'll do 1.2 million, second year 570, and then it drops slightly lower, $71,000 less for the third year when we do the network at Hutchinson and Greenvale. Now, Greenvale is one of the strongest from the infrastructure point of view, and Hutch is pretty good. They can wait the extra time. We absolutely have to do the high school first, and then we want to get to the middle school and Waverly and District as soon as possible in that second year. So that's the $2.3 million that I referenced earlier, but we're going to do it in a multi-year plan. And I don't want to boggle your mind or eyesight, but this is the multi-year plan. And all I want us to focus on for tonight is year one, which is next year. The network infrastructure expense, which is aidable, all of this stuff is aidable, or much of it, that work is $131,000 and change. The classroom technology, now remember, that's the lease purchase. That also is an aidable. So we will be getting money against that. There are non-aidable portions, $113,000. So the cost that we need to find in the budget between the end of this year or next year, 24-25, is $374,000. And then, as you can see, over that multi-year period, based on the additional aid you're getting, you see the state aid revenue clicking in, that number goes down so that by the time the district gets to 27-28, it goes to $250,000, and then it drops dramatically where you have a net plus of $20,000, meaning that your state aid is really in excess of what you're expending that year. So we think this is the smartest way to go in terms of addressing the technology, network, infrastructure, classroom approach. Maybe I should stop there. Are there any questions the board would like on the budget about technology that either Louise, Robert, or I could address, or Greg?
Yeah, please, Chrissy.
Sure. I just wanted to clarify, that additional guidance counselor that we're adding at the high school, will that person also be serving as the transition coordinator?
Correct.
Okay, because I know the transition coordinator is retiring. Is that a part-time position?
0.4. Yeah,
Got
it's
it.
about 40,000. Yeah. Yeah, that person is retiring, a good person. So we're incorporating that into the new guidance position. Yes.
Okay, great. And then just one other question. So we're going to have a literacy coach next year for Ann Hutch, Greenvale, and Waverly. What do we have right now?
Right now, you have one split between Greenvale and Ann Hutch, so
Got
to
it.
use the
Plus.
term 0.5. At Waverly, you have a teacher, Chrissy Conrad, who part of her day is dedicated to the literacy effort. So at least we'll have 3 individuals in each school who could speak to literacy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Christine. Oh, Jackie, please.
Thank you. Could you just speak a little to where the FLES is going to fit in at Greenvale and Ann Hutch, and what that will be in place of?
Well, we never want to eliminate anything, do we?
No.
We might want to readjust. As a matter of fact, we brought in a consultant. He was at Greenvale and Ann Hutch today, so it's interesting that the question should be raised. Michael Reddick, the district has used him before, and we posed several questions to Michael. How can we make better use of our win period? How, you agree? Yeah, how can we do better with our departmentalization? And how do we get FLES into a schedule that makes sense for all of us? Now, in fairness, we did it at Waverly, and I think we could do it at Ann Hutch and Greenvale, but it's a different type of organizational environment. So we're actually working on that with a consultant. I'll have more information when we talk later on in this school year. One area that we do know is we farmed additional time in the elementary school budget each day. Is 17 minutes sound right per day? Do you recall what we found contractually? Yes. 282, I think 270, maybe 12 minutes per day. Was that it? But we found more time that we weren't taking advantage of, teacher time. So that helps a little bit, about an hour a week. But we want to follow the model of Waverly, which is minimally about 90 to 110 minutes for a good FLES program. So that's what we're working around. And we think, you know, you may have to do a little bit of reduction at the ELA level, because you do have 120 minutes at Waverly for that. And then when you get to Ann Hutch and Greenvale, you ratchet that down to 90. So you might be able to pick up 5 to 10 minutes there, and then possibly in a few other areas. But we will find the necessary time in order to get that in. And we could also build it in as an elective. So there are ways to do that. But it is a very packed full schedule. And it will be more packed full next year. But that's great. You know, our kids will not be bored, certainly. And bringing in Spanish opens up worlds to them in terms of their language capability, their cultural experiences, et cetera.
Sure.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
So just to follow up, if you could just explain, so we have the Waverly kids, K in first, having, I don't want to call it introductory Spanish, but however they're learning it, we saw a little bit from one of the videos. But those first graders will now be in second grade next year, having that program in that building for the first time. Is there an overlap in how that is being in the instruction at all, or not? I'm just trying to get a better idea.
I wouldn't use the word overlap. I say it's a building steps. We're building on the first grade curriculum currently at Waverly and FLES. So next year, second grade curriculum will take those youngsters to the next higher level in terms of colors, letters, months of the year, days of the week, etc. We're working with Dr. Lori Fernandez, who's a consultant out of New York City. She helped us build the Waverly curriculum. She'll be visiting us this summer for 4 days, working with the Ann Hutch and Greenvale faculty, and they'll be building a stepped-up curriculum going into grade 2, 3, 4, and 5, so that by the end of each grade, if a parent said, what will my child know in Spanish by the end of grade 2, we can give you a list of what the expectations are. As we can today, what would a child know by the end of kindergarten? What words will they know? What greetings will they be able to recite, etc. So, and we can share that curriculum with you. The K-1 curriculum is in place. Once we've worked on the 2 to 5 curriculum this summer, we'd be happy to share the K to 5 curriculum with the community and the board.
Right, I guess I'm thinking that essentially second, third, fourth, fifth are all going to be exposed for the first time. So just kind of wondering how that all plays in with, like, at some point, does the
Well,
curriculum
I would-
catch up?
In answering the second grade question, it would build on first.
Right,
In terms of the third grade, technically, that's where kindergarten
right,
started.
right.
So you're talking about two pathways. I was only addressing grade 2.
Okay.
So let's talk about grades 3, 4, 5. That would be somewhat similar to K, but a larger dose. So probably a compilation of K1, because those youngsters can move more quickly and absorb more quickly. So they would be on their own pathway. So you're going to have two pathways at Ann Hutch and Greenvale, the second grade pathway, and then you're going to have
Right.
the third grade.
Okay,
And you're going to have to modify curriculum every year until you complete the full cycle,
right, okay.
because you don't want to repeat. Although language, from one point of view, repetitio mater studiorum, but repetition is the mother of learning, but you do want to have clarity as to what the curriculum is, yeah.
Okay, and so we don't know yet if that's going to be part of the, not the ELA block, but do we know if it's taking away from any of the core instruction at all, or from which specials?
No, I'd rather wait until I have that clearly lined up. We're definitely working on it. As I say, as we speak today, Thursday, I'm going to Waverly to meet with Michael and look at some of the work he's doing there and have a conversation with him in terms of where we're at with respect to scheduling and what his suggestions are. And then once we have the full picture, we can report back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Christine?
Thanks, Dr. Valenti. Just kind of going back to where, the budget as to where it will cost me, and obviously in this financial environment, the cost of bread and everything is going up. So the increase is, roughly $400. But I would like for you to, and I guess maybe I'm going ahead of myself, we have to adopt the budget, and then eventually the community has to vote on the budget. Now, we've tried to be as fiscally conservative and responsible, but could you please, I guess, educate the community what would happen if the budget would fail? Because I understand that there are districts in the state of New York that are now facing a financial crisis because they didn't budget accordingly.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
And, it's a great question. And some of our neighbors, in fact, my home district of Blindbrook, sustained the loss last year, which is almost unheard of in Blindbrook. And they had to go out a second time and managed to get it passed because they exceeded the cap. If the budget were to fail, the board has one of two choices. They could choose to offer a second budget, possibly reduced, in order to get sufficient votes for the community to support it and a simple majority. The other option the board has is to immediately go to austerity and not expend money on a second budget, but austerity, in effect, limits your capacity to spend extremely under state law. So the recommended practice that we ask boards to follow is to run a second budget, listen to what the community said. If they're saying, hey, nice stuff, we can't do it all, then we have to agree what is it we don't do for this coming year and trim the budget and see if that satisfies the appetite for what the community is willing to pay. We would still be under the cap, so there's no discernible difference. It's not that we're going from 4% to 2%. The point is we're staying below the cap. You might be going from 2.96 to 2.5 or 2.4, which, still percentages, but they're even further below the cap. And then, of course, as I say, the worst case scenario is the austerity.
And
Wow.
Christine, to that point, I know the article that you're referencing where a school
Yeah.
district actually had to contemplate removing kindergarten
Well-
because their budget didn't pass. Now, what I will say is, and Dr. Valenti, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I went through all of the proposed budgets individually for the 46 districts, currently with adding services here, having that somewhat 50-50 balance between elementary and secondary, we are actually slightly below the average of neighboring districts. I just want to make sure
Yep.
publicly that we're interpreting that correctly.
Yep, no, you're absolutely correct. And I think there's more work to do on this budget going into next year. I can't stand here tonight and say we're going to find additional monies, but I do think there are areas that we're currently looking at. We have a team, Louise, Jeanette, and I are looking at our health costs. Are there ways that we might be able to reduce those going forward, working with our units? The other area, I've said this publicly, and at some point, maybe as soon as May, I think I'd like to see a presentation on transportation. Right now, I think we're spending more money in transportation than we ought to be spending. I think we could do the job as well or better with fewer buses, not more buses. I'd like to show you what the capacities are that we're using right now, and I think everybody will agree that's rather astoundingly low. And is there a better way of organizing a busing system, while remaining faithful to what people hold dear in terms of schedules and lifestyles, et cetera. So those are a couple of areas. I also want to take a harder look at the reserves, how we use our reserves, and see what portions of next year's budget may be able to be offset by the reserve. So we're looking at three particular areas. There is some scuttlebutt that I've heard. Dr. Valenti's cutting positions. Let me state publicly, I look at every position, every retiree, and ask, do we need to replace that position at all, in part, or in full? If we didn't do that for every position, then we're not doing our due diligence to the taxpayer. I'm not convinced yet that every retiree needs to be replaced fully. I would certainly bring that information to the board when I have enough information. But if there is room for not buying a position next year that we don't need, based on declining enrollment, consolidation, et cetera, then I think we need to take that road as well. So there are 4 buckets we're looking at to find dollars in next year's budget that maybe could be spent better.
Dr. Monte, along those lines, when you talk about enrollment, I guess one point of clarification publicly, and just, so everyone knows, looking at our surrounding districts, just page 1 of the information that I got, there's 25 school districts here. 12 of them are proposing a budget to go above the cap. So because of the impact of inflation, just so everyone understands, approximately 50% of surrounding districts are putting up a budget to go over the cap to stem some of the issues, Christine, as you experience, because we're not immune to those in terms of benefit costs, operational costs, et cetera. That being said, in terms of enrollment and looking at replacing individual roles, from my understanding and the trajectory that we've looked at in the anticipated enrollment numbers, I know that you've accommodated here for going up based on, I believe you said first grade, Waverly, we may need to add a
One
section.
from that position.
Okay. That being said, our overall enrollment as a district, as I understand it, is slightly declining. So I think that's also very important to mention as we look, methodically across every role, every program to make sure we're investing the dollars for the students to get the biggest impact. So I do want to bring that up publicly just so people understand. We're not looking at positions while our enrollment is going up and saying we shouldn't replace this one. We're taking into account where the declines are actually happening just based on population. So I just want to make sure that's accurate.
The greatest declines we're sustaining are at the middle and high school level. And so that's why I'm looking at those master schedules very carefully. you know, our demographers told us that there would be a slight decrease, and we're seeing that. So the question is, to the degree it's occurring, we would have to address it. But that's where we're at on the enrollment front of things. Are there any other questions on the budget? Chris?
I think I'm on. I am on, okay. I need a lot of muscles. Just, I was curious, just for clarification on the technology plan.
Yep.
The 3-year plan. Just remind the public, an example of the classroom technology transformation and the high school network. I mean, I remember one of the presentations, I mean, we've got closets
The
literally.
visual.
Correct, that's the visual.
Remember that closet?
I remember the
the
closet, correct, and so that's scary, right? So,
It was
and
very
I've seen that
scary, yeah.
closet, I've seen it too. But is that what we're talking about in terms of the wiring, in terms of the networks that we have in place?
Yeah.
And making sure that there's stability in the networks and how students in the classroom are able to keep those systems going, to keep their Chromebooks going,
Right.
their laptops going, et cetera.
Yeah, in part, yes, that's your network infrastructure, separate and apart from the new technology that we want to
Is it
bring in.
like the smart
Robert,
boards or
where are
things
you?
like that? Smart boards and, I'm sorry, Rob.
Smart
to put you-
boards and,
Right.
you know, the latest, so that every class from kindergarten to 12th grade has your top-notch technology in the 21st century. Here, come on, do you want to explain a little bit about the network other than the cabinets?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Rob.
I put it into 2 buckets. What do students and teachers see, and what do they not see? So the classroom technology, that's right away. As Dr. Valenti said, I don't think it's hard to judge that one building is more important than the other. So the classroom technology, what the students see and use every day, we'd like to do right away. The network infrastructure is what makes everything connect, what makes everything work. As Dr. Valenti said, Greenville has a brand new wireless system, so that's why we prioritize them in year 3. But the high school is really, really important because so many of our students bring their own devices. And I think high schoolers are on devices more throughout the day. So the classrooms, every classroom would see a brand new screen. That's actually the screen that every classroom will see. It's touchscreen interactive. The teachers will be getting laptops. Our desktops are coming to end of life no matter what. And so we figure untether them from the desk, let them move around the room. These displays have built-in wireless casting. Teachers can move around the room, work with students while still presenting on the board, making notations as well. So other small, improvements as well, like monitors and printers as well. But I think that's the biggest thing. And our smart boards are dim, they're small, they're not high resolution. And so this, I think, for the students, is going to be really a big improvement.
Mention adjustable, too.
That is nice. We found an adjustable mount. So as little as kindergarten, these TVs will be able to go all the way to the floor. And they split up into multiple panels. So if you remember, math class where there was chalkboards, you could split the chalkboard up and 3 or 4 students can come up and do math problems together. These boards can do that as well. They split and they have multi-touch. So a lot of students can come up at one time. And the adjustable mounts, not only for the students, but for the staff as well, are really valuable. When you're displaying something, you can keep it nice and high and the students in the back of the room can see. When you want the students to participate, pull it down, 2 fingers move these boards up and down. So that's a big improvement.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Sure.
Was there another question from the board? Did we answer all the questions from the board? Okay, then let me wrap it up. Oh, Superintendent's Conference Day tomorrow. We have a full court press on professional staff development, and everybody will be either between the middle high school or the elementaries. I just wanted everybody to know there are no classes tomorrow. I did want to mention something in closing, that we are in the midst of recruiting for a number of positions. We have successfully found the high school principal, Chris Welch, and we had a wonderful process there. We intend to replicate that process, which we're doing right now, for the assistant principalship at the high school. Later on this month, there'll be 4 finalists meeting with stakeholders. And when I say stakeholders, I mean 1 representative from SEPTA, 1 from the PTA, 2 from students, depending on the age level, of course, several teachers representing that particular faculty, and then we do have some other administrators. We include CSEA, we include our custodial representatives as well as our secretarial. So we do have a broad range of people who are invested, who in the next assistant principal will be. We're starting the assistant principal middle school process. Basically, that's closing out toward the end of this month, and both APs will be on board for the new school year. So those teams will be in place. I met with the Ann Hutch faculty last week. A number of them were very excited about being on this district-wide committee. Again, we'll have SEPTA and PTA on those committees. And again, we'll have other representatives, as I mentioned, from the units. So there is a certain consistency of the process so that each process is pretty similar to the former one, all right? Ann Hutch, if things go the way we'd like them to go, we very well may have a principal in place for July 1st, okay? Ideally speaking, that's our goal, or at least during the summer. If there are other shoes to drop, we don't welcome shoes dropping, but having been in this business a while, it's called the churn, C-H-U-R-N. The churn keeps going. People do have careers, and their careers sometimes require them to make moves that they need to make if they want to achieve certain goals. If you want to stay a teacher for the rest of your natural life, that's your prerogative. But if you want to be a superintendent someday, you've got to make moves. And if you're good at what you do, any community that you leave is not going to be necessarily happy. But if you're going to achieve your goal, you've got to achieve the goal. So on that note, Dr. Greg Stowell has a story to tell us tonight. I think Greg is a great assistant superintendent. Sorry to lose him, but he wants to be a superintendent. And I think he has every right to be a superintendent. And I think Garrison, the board is expected to appoint him tomorrow night. It's their game, but we'll work hard to replace that position as well. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. Greg, would you come and say a few words, and let's congratulate him. Although they haven't appointed him yet, I will call him Superintendent-elect Stowell. Where are you?
Yeah, thank you, Ron, for that. I certainly, it's not official yet, but while I'm excited to join the Garrison Union Free School District in July as their next superintendent, I appreciate giving me a few moments to share with you and let you know and the community know it has been an extreme honor and privilege to serve as East Chester's Assistant Superintendent for PPS for the past 2 years. Working alongside such dedicated educators, service providers, teaching assistants, monitors, a caring and supportive Board of Education, a very active and supportive special ed parent-teacher association, outstanding school leaders, and 2 of the most wonderful assistant directors anybody could ever ask for. It's been one of the highlights of my career, so I'm very appreciative of that. It is clear to me that everybody's unwavering dedication and commitment to our students and their families have not only made a significant impact on their lives, but has also made East Chester an exceptional place to learn and for our students to grow. Although my time in the department has been brief, the progress we have made together is nothing short of remarkable. I hope that these achievements have laid a strong foundation that will continue to support our students and staff for years to come. I look forward to hearing about the continued success of the East Chester Union Free School District and I have felt fortunate to have served this school community, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And Greg, just very briefly, on behalf of the board, we sincerely thank you for everything that you've done for this district. And what I would say, which I think is a testament to you and your career growth, you're leaving us in a better place than when you started here. And for that, I think I speak on behalf of all of us. We are eternally grateful. We are super happy for you, and congratulations again. So thank you.
Sorry, I'm just going to add to that, Dr. Stoll. Big loss for Eastchester. Big win for Garrison. So congratulations. We're very happy for you, but we're also sad to lose you. And as Matt said, you've brought so much here to Eastchester. I just want to name some of the programs that you've brought here. More co-teaching classes, specialized reading teachers, more AIS support teachers, the ruler program, the flexible support program, efforts to expand mental health services, unified sports, and so much more. I'm just naming a few. So many students are benefiting today from these programs. So many parents are so grateful for the work that you've done and the programs that you've brought. So we're so grateful, and we're going to miss you, but we look forward to continuing your initiatives. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. We are now up to, tonight our agenda is a little bit different. Based on the superintendent's recommendation, we're now up to adopting our 24-25 budget. Do I have a motion? Christine?
Oh, this is long. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the proposed 2024-2025 budget in the amount of $105,692,491, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education shall present the following to the voters of the Eastchester Union Free School District on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Proposition 1. Shall the Eastchester Union Free School District of the Town of Eastchester, Westchester County, New York, adopt the budget for the school year 2024-2025 for the schools comprising said Eastchester Union Free School District in the gross sum of $105,692,491, and raise the necessary taxes required for said budget in one sum by tax upon the taxable property of the district.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Rob, all in favor? Got that, Louise? Good. Thank you. And again, based on the superintendent's recommendation, we are now up to adopting the property tax report card. Do I have a motion? Jackie?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education has reviewed and hereby approves the attached 2024-2025 school property tax report card for the Eastchester Union Free School District, and authorizes the Assistant Superintendent to submit the same in accordance with the law.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Christine, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are now up to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? Rob?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda, which includes the following: approval of minutes, 9 personnel agenda, 10 educational and curriculum and instruction, 11 committee on preschool education and committee on special education recommendations, 12 business office recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Jackie, great. All in favor? Thank you. We're now up to future meeting dates. Our next Board of Education meeting will be a regular BOE meeting where it'll be our adoption hearing. That will occur here on May 7th. And then on May 21st, we will have the annual budget vote and the trustee election. We're now up to comments from the public. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record. We welcome all public comments and feedback, but please be mindful that we will not exceed 30 minutes in total for this portion of the evening, and each person has a hard stop at 3 minutes. It's not me being rude, but I am going to stop everyone at 3 minutes. And just as a reminder, this is not a question and answer period. So please refrain from mentioning any individual by name. If you would like a broader discussion on a specific topic or topics, please contact the superintendent's office. Just as a reminder, the superintendent had offered if anyone would like any additional detail or more detail on the budget. Himself and our business official are happy to set an individualized meeting to go through that with any taxpayer.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to address the board as well as the community members in Eastchester. I am not a regular participant of the board meetings. By the way of introduction, my name is Tara Ritchie. I have 3 children in the Eastchester School District. One is in 7th grade in the middle school, and 2 are at Ann Hutch. One is in 2nd grade and one is in 5th grade. My family, we transplanted to New York. We are new to this community, and we have a lot of high hopes for the education in this community. As a matter of fact, we bought our home before we even had children. So we have a lot of faith in what we are doing within the school district. So I'm looking to partner with you on some of these concerns. So the reason why I'm here today is because I'm having a moment of pause on 2 items that may appear to be superficial, but I really fear that something deeper is going on in the district. So I want to start with the first, and I'm not looking for comments or any additional information, but when we have a tenured principal leaving to go to a neighboring school district that allegedly has financial troubles, I question what is really going on. Learning tonight that Dr. Stoll is also moving on to what we can say are bigger and better things. Congratulations, Dr. Stoll. One also has to realize and think to themselves, what are we not doing in our school district to offer career growth, advancement, et cetera? It might not necessarily be to be the superintendent. We have a superintendent. But we really need to think about what's happening within the leadership of our community within education. So I leave you with that that was my first moment of pause. My second, and it was only actually, it really coming here really added to now I'm really questioning what's going on, is we adopted our budget tonight for the next year. However, we also have already posted for a new position to be the assistant to the superintendent for the pupils K through 12. I believe that's what it is. Knowing that running a budget is largely based on position control, how are we posting for new positions when we have not even adopted a budget? I work in finance, so you can tell me we had budget, and this is budget neutral, we had some additional monies from previous years, but I want to be really conscious of how are we making these unilateral decisions to post these positions that I think are integral to how we provide education for our students. And I just want to make sure, and Dr. Valenti, this is not directed at you, this is overall in government. How do we have checks and balances? And I just want to ensure that we have that here in Eastchester, because I think it's important that we have in place what is beneficial for all the students within the school district. So I would like to thank you all for your service. I know that this can be a thankless job. I am not here, and it might sound like I'm here to judge you. I'm simply here to voice my concern as a resident and as a parent. These are the 2 things that really gave me, I had a lot of thoughts around this, and I thought I would be doing a disservice if I did not share it with you directly, as well as the people within my community. So thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing those concerns. Dr. Valenti would like to make a comment and address 2 of the things that you said, but just as a reminder for you and for Dr. Valenti, if it goes into more question and answer, Dr. Valenti would be more than happy to set up time with you individually to address those concerns if we can't do them quickly this evening. So Dr. Valenti, please.
Correct. And I want to take your second question first because it's a good one and a fair one. You can post a position. You can even recruit for it, but you don't have to hire. Now, that's not our intent. But let's assume something happened between now and the point at which we would like to bring in that assistant to the superintendent for counseling, mental health for students. If something did happen, then we would have to hold any appointment, okay? The way you run a school district is you anticipate the best, but you're prepared for the worst. I think business somehow adopts that too, but I don't want to go there. I'm running school districts, not,
That's okay, I work in healthcare.
okay,
Talk about ebbs and flows.
right. Your first question is interesting, and I don't know if I heard you correctly. You said a tenured principal was leaving. That's true, Dr. Heen. Did you say a financially struggling district?
This is what I've been told, this is what has been shared with me, that the school district is financially struggling.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard Scarsdale in my entire career described as a financially struggling district.
And I've not substantiated that claim. There are some cuts from some parents in that area. There are some cuts being made that maybe they're not used to. So in their interpretation, it's
That
a
is
financial
true.
struggle.
That
So
is
it's all
true.
room for interpretation. On the books, are they struggling? I'm not sure, Dr.
Right.
Valente. So what you're saying is very fair.
Right. And what I will say, and I must respect Dr. Keen's privacy.
Of course.
She's earning a considerable amount of money more than we're able to pay her. Secondly, there is very little flexibility that anybody around this table has with that salary because they are set by a unit, EAA, Educational Administrators Association. And if we were to adjust salaries upward for one, we'd have to do it for all. So the district was somewhat handcuffed in that case.
Sure.
And I think that's all I need to say.
And we sincerely hope, on behalf of myself and some other families in the community, that this is an isolated incident. We're obviously really sad to hear about your loss, obviously for very great reasons. But I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to let you know that my perception of what's happening is my reality.
Sure.
And I just don't want to continue to have this fester as things are, being discussed within the community. So thank you for your partnership. Just please keep this in mind as you're making additional decisions going forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you again, we really appreciate that. Is there anyone else?
Hello, all. My name's Sean Bolduc, 14 Myrtle. I have 3 daughters. I believe I know some of you here, which is wonderful. And I just want to start off with thanking everybody for putting the time in. This is definitely a lot of effort. To add on to the last speaker, I do challenge the board to go out beyond just the superintendent and have some exit interviews and maybe even reach out to some of the teachers in terms of just general feedbacks. It's you guys are our representation. So we do want to make sure if it's isolated, it is isolated. I will say Dr. Keen, with everything with COVID and everything else that's gone on and the transition back, I mean, Scarsdale really won. So I do think that's something to be important. And understanding where the teachers feel about that and making sure that we talked about business and growth and development. As much as our kids are developments, our school is a development program for our teachers in succession planning. We do not want to be hiring new teachers every year to replace ones exiting. We want to see them all retiring ideally. That's not always the case. But when we talk about reducing certain teachers in the future, when we looked at the budget there, just again looking at financial numbers, I think the education budget, or the teacher's budget, that was about $56 million versus last year 51 or 55. But that was about a 3% increase in additional costs based on the breakdown Dr. Valente gave us. For the teachers themselves, the teachers component, that growth was less than 2%. It was like 1.5% growth. So if we talk about costs of contracts, costs of values, the addition of 2 or 3 teachers in the elementary school, that is a screaming indication that we are reducing our teaching staff or something else is going on. But it's a surprise to that. And hearing the conversation earlier before makes me concerned that are we developing our next generation of teachers that are going to continue to go up and keep that succession planning? Because I think we have wonderful teachers and a great program. The second part there is hidden costs and budgets, which I think is something that we always have to be aware of. The upgrading of the network systems, this is something I do a little bit more on my end in my profession, but the infrastructure numbers seem surprisingly low given the extent of what was described. When we talk about lean lease and front-end equipment, like what I'm talking on right now, the screens behind you, that's stuff that ages in and out, but the infrastructure is something that, if not fully understood, can either come up with a shortfall and you have cabinets that are half built or things that are half done, and then all of a sudden we are in a hole. So very rarely can you start or stop those things. So just something to be, that's about it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Rob, second. Lori, all in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good. Okay.